tariffs.
Yeah.
Trump started talking about tariffs while he was campaigning. And at first he was saying that there's going to be a blanket tariff between 10 to 20%. And then he got elected and he kind of upped it a little bit. And he said, as everyone is aware, thousands of people are pouring through Mexico and Canada, bringing crime and drugs at levels never seen before. On January 20th, as one of my many first executive orders, I will sign all necessary documents to change Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States. And it's ridiculous open borders. This tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country.
Yeah, so that's the most important part there. He's claiming that it's going to remain in effect till drugs and illegal aliens stop invading, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's just using it as a border control measure, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of people were believing. But what about the USMCA?
What about it? Here.
Like, won't this negate that?
I mean, it will, but the USMCA is a little bit complicated. We don't know if who exactly governs it, right? And Mexico has its own issues and claims that they have that still haven't been resolved. Even Canada has had softwood lumber disputes with NAFTA, and then there's things going on with aluminum, right? So I think it's more of a negotiating tactic going into the USMCA because it's expiring in 2026. I don't see it. To me, it just seems like what he's doing is making these guys negotiate against each other, right? You got the Mexican president coming out and she's talking about how Canada has a drug problem as if the cartels aren't in Mexico.
Right. Mexico might have a bit of a drug problem.
Right. But what do you think if these tariffs were actually to come into effect? What do you think it would do to the Canadian economy?
I think people were worried at 10%.
Right.
So 25, I think it'll bring everything to a standstill.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not an economist, but 25% tariffs would pretty much disrupt all supply chains. Unemployment would skyrocket. And the monetary policy would have to get controlled. So that means the Bank of Canada is basically just going to decrease interest rates. Inflation is going to go through the roof. Yeah. Canada would be in a very bad spot.
I mean, in 2022, under the USMCA, CME or whatever, $1.8 trillion of goods were traded across the border, right? Free of tariffs. So if you start imposing tariffs on that much, it's obviously going to affect everybody, the U.S. included.
The U.S. included, but
people overlook.
Even though they're our largest trading partner, I still feel like Canada has a lot more to lose here, right? And Trump knows that. Yeah. Right. And he knows, I don't think he's out here I don't think he's going to impose these tariffs, but he knows it's a bargaining chip, not only for the USMCA, it's also a political move, a genius one, right? Yeah. Because what he's doing is he ran on a campaign saying that he's going to get rid of drugs. He's going to solve the migrant crisis, right? Yeah. And he's saying, why should we solve it? Right? You solve it. Yeah. Like, you remember back when he was saying, we have to build a wall, and everyone was laughing at him. Yeah. Right. And he's like, and we're going to make Mexico build that wall. Yeah. And everyone was like laughing or whatever, right? I mean, he's going to make them pay for it, right? Yeah. They're going to stop those migrants now if they don't want these tariffs. Right. Right. So they're not paying for a wall, but they're paying for something, right? They're cleaning that mess up somewhere.
I mean, that's the overall belief with a lot of people too, that he's just bluffing to solve the immigration crisis, right? But when he says it, obviously people are going to react, and the Canadian politicians, they went into a frenzy. That's for sure. Did you hear what's his name? The mayor, Doug Ford?
Oh, the premier?
His reaction? The premier, sorry.
What I found unfair about the comments is to compare us to Mexico. And I can tell you, Canada is no Mexico. I found his comments unfair. I found him insulting. It's like a family member stabbing you right in the heart.
Oh, this guy was hurt.
We see drugs flow from Mexico, coming up through California, in through BC, into Alberta, into Ontario. And what we need to do is take that threat seriously. And a message to President-elect Trump: there's no closer ally. There's no other country in the world that has stood shoulder to shoulder with our American counterparts, our friends, our family. It's an insult to the 900,000 Americans that are living here in Canada.
You look so sad.
It's an insult to the 9 million Americans that wake up every single morning to produce products
he's a conservative, right?
to ship up to Ontario alone. We hear the message loud and clear. I want to emphasize, to compare us to Mexico is the most insulting thing I've ever heard from our friends and closest allies, the United States of America. We have to retaliate, not against the Americans, the administration that has made a wrong call on this. It's very simple.
Yeah.
What do you think the chances are he runs for prime minister one day?
Doug Ford?
Yeah.
I don't think he'll ever run.
Really?
You think he would?
I think right now it's Poilievre's turn. I think.
Well, okay. Next question. Do you think he'd be good at it?
I mean.
Okay, do you hate the things that he does or says?
No.
I don't hate them.
Right?
I think everything he does or says, he gets done.
I feel like he's the kind of person who is like the license plate sticker, right? Like I feel like he was just like, these are annoying. I have to renew these every year. And you got to pay $200 or whatever it was. He's like, let's just get rid of this.
Yeah.
And then if he's like driving home and he's like, you know what? I want to grab some beers, but I got to go to the beer store.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be at gas stations, right? Let's have some beer in convenience stores and grocery stores.
Or the tunnels underneath highways, right? It just makes sense.
Even him just
make any sense. Just buy the 407.
Even him just saying that don't compare us to Mexico. How do you think the Mexican president feels? He's just like, that's insulting.
Like I was saying earlier, how she was like, Canada has its own drug problem. Like
she was saying it's worse.
Yeah.
That's a stretch.
That's a huge stretch.
Right? I mean, you don't see any movies being made of the Canadian
cartels. I mean, I'm sure they exist, but
I mean, there is. So I think right when I remember reading an article the day that Trump said this 25% tariff to stop illegal migrants into the States, and I was just like, no, like who goes from? And then I read this article. It was like 7 people. It was a CBC article, I think, or CBS. And there's like 7 people crossing that day. Across in Quebec, and they got caught in New York.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was even, I think a Jordanian terrorist or somebody that they caught at the border.
Yeah, I heard about that.
He went over
Yeah.
And then he went back over twice.
Oh,
and nobody caught this guy. And then I don't know if he turned himself in or he got caught. So clearly the borders can get a little tighter.
For sure.
And
they already, like, they said they were going to up security right away. Mm-hmm. It's working, whatever he's saying. If he's bluffing, if it's true, why not give that a shot before you come into office, right? See if you can get the ball rolling already.
Yeah.
And then if they solve the problems a little bit, they even said they were going to have helicopters monitoring the borders now. Mm-hmm. So it makes your job a lot easier when you are in office, right? If you're Trump.
Yeah. So I see why Trump's doing it.
Yeah.
But Canada's response is a little weird. Like even Doug Ford, like his whole thing was, I don't know if you saw the ad campaigns that he's running. He has $1 million package running a couple of ad campaigns in the United States. I think we have that clip of one of those ads. You want to play it?
For generations, this ally to the north has been by your side. Ontario, Canada. A partner connected by shared history, shared values, and a shared vision for what we can achieve together. Stable and secure when the world around us isn't. You can rely on Ontario for energy to power your growing economy and for the critical minerals crucial to new technologies. Ontario is your third largest trading partner and the #1 export destination for 17 states. Our long-standing economic partnership keeps millions of Americans working. In a changing world, it's time to bring jobs back home and build together. More workers, more trade, more prosperity, more security. For generations, this ally to the north has been here. And for generations more, we'll still be here, right by your side.
How effective do you think that was?
I don't know.
So
they're running this in the States, right?
Yeah. So they're supposed to be running these on Fox and NFL games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's, I don't know, projected to reach what, 10 million, 100 million people or something?
I think 100 million.
Yeah. I mean, how do you, to me, The American people aren't who you're going to try to. Somebody watches that ad. Are they? Like,
I don't think that registers with Americans.
And even if it does, what's the end?
What
goal
can they
here?
do, right?
Are they going to start protesting in Washington? Like, stop the
We
tariffs.
love Ontario.
Yeah, we love Canada. Like, it's not gonna.
Yeah, I don't really get the ad campaign, but it clearly means that they're scared. And what he's saying is not like untrue. It's not like it's not a two-way street, right? They definitely depend on us.
No, I like that he's acting and he wants to do something because Ontario specifically has a massive amount that they export how much to the United States. I think all the bordering states, whether it's Montana, Illinois, Michigan, right? Even though Michigan's the only one there that borders Ontario.
Yeah.
They all export a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
back and forth.
All of their petroleum almost comes from us, right?
Oil, yeah.
Oil.
Yeah. But I mean, Trump's plan is to drill, right? So
yeah.
I mean, if they're not using our oil, whose oil are they using, right?
Yeah, but the auto parts trade, just look at that chart over there. Mm-hmm. Oil and gas, transportation.
Primary metals, chemicals, food products, machinery, wood, plastic. Yeah, I feel like the thing that most people are going to realize, because it's not just Canada and Mexico. Yeah. Trump has already talked about, I don't know if you read him talking about BRICS, saying that anyone that's saying that the US isn't going to be the world reserve currency, he's coming after them next, essentially. I don't know exactly what he said, so I'm kind of paraphrasing here. But it's not just this, right? He's going after China. He's going after BRICS.
Yeah, he said he's going to put on top of that 100%, he's going to put another 10% tariff.
Yeah. So then if you do that,
right, you can't just keep tariffing these countries out of control.
Yeah, because from a protectionist mindset, what's going to happen is you're going to get, if you raise tariffs too much, it's fine for somebody who's upper middle class, makes a lot of money, but people on the lower end of the income totem pole, what's going to end up happening is that you're going to end up buying something that's American made, yes, right? But it might be at a higher price, right? How much higher? Who knows, right? And even then, they don't exactly have all the supply chain issues solved, right? So it's not like they can manufacture all those things in the States already, right? Yeah. So it could backfire.
So doesn't that make you feel like it's more of a bluff?
It's a political move, right? I mean, as a marketing guy, this guy's a genius. Yeah. What he's doing right now, he's making Mexico fight with Canada. They've never really hated each other, right? And you got those two arguing amongst each other. China's terrified. They're just like, if you do that, it's going to start a trade war.
And what does he have to lose, right? Why not give it a shot?
Yeah, because people already get something protectionist, right? Like, what else is going to happen?
It's smart. Honestly.
And if you're the A side, right? Like, really, like, yes, Canada could be like, we got things too or whatever, but we depend on their economy.
Yeah, we do too.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you saw all of the jokes that he was making.
Oh, Trump? Yeah. What was he saying? Apparently, he said it at the dinner there, right?
So then when
Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, when Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago and they had dinner, Trudeau came out. I think he was saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, that it went well, and he was pretty confident that they'll get something done.
Yeah.
And Trump came out and he said something along the lines of like, "Oh, he's a nice guy" or whatever. But then he was also like, if you're worried about tariffs so much, why don't you just become the 51st state?
Right?
Right.
He tweeted it.
Crazy.
Yeah, he tweeted it, right?
It?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then
he posted some picture, right?
Yeah, of him standing.
He's like on a mountain.
The
Canadian flag.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think.
Do you find it funny or do you think it's insulting?
I mean, it is funny, but it's insulting as hell.
Yeah.
If you're going to be
Canadian,
insensitive, but if. Like, he's just playing games, right? Did Trudeau respond to that or no?
Doug Ford did.
Doug Ford did? What did
he was just like...
Maybe he should run for prime minister.
Yeah, that's where I started thinking about that. He was like, he's probably still like hurt from the War of 1812 when he took down the White House.
Yeah, I saw that. So I saw that, back and then somebody tried to fact check him and be like, the White House was 1814.
Yeah.
But the war happened in 1812.
The war is called the War of 1812.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody knows it's the War of 1814.
Yeah.
So this so Trudeau ran off to Mar-a-Lago and Doug Ford had his reaction. There was also Poilievre. Did you hear what he was saying?
I heard it, but I don't remember exactly.
I think we have a clip.
Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland, were surprised. Amazingly, everyone else knew something like this could be coming because President Trump had been talking about it for years on the campaign trail. After 9 years of Prime Minister Trudeau, our GDP is smaller than it was when he took off, per capita is smaller than it was when he took office. But combining this kind of crippling energy tax increase with potential tariffs from Donald Trump would push our economy into a nightmare and a tailspin.
He's right.
Yeah.
So
He's not
let's
wrong.
put partisanship aside and axe the tax. President Trump has the right to put his workers and his nation's security first. I will put Canada's workers and Canada's security first. We need a prime minister with the strength and the smarts, the brains and the backbone to stand up for this country, to rebuild our security, our military, and our economy. That is what I will do. I only care about Canada. I want to put our country first. 2, America is responsible for over 60% of our trade. We trade more with the U.S. than we do with the rest of the world combined. I will do what is necessary to preserve and protect that relationship above all others.
So yeah, he's pretty strong on that stance, Canada first. He went as far as to say that he's willing to negotiate a deal without Mexico in it, like just a bilateral agreement between the two countries. Do you think that's the right move?
Now, I don't know if you remember, before NAFTA, there was the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement, right? And that was between, I believe, Brian Mulroney signed that with Ronald Reagan. And then shortly after that, I think Mexico, realized that there's definitely a good idea to have a free trade agreement.
Yeah.
So then they started to negotiate their own free trade agreement, in which then now you have this, Mulroney's tripping out because he's thinking that that's going to undermine the Canada-U.S. free trade agreement. And then eventually, like after going back and forth, what they ended up doing was the three of them jumped on the same page, right?
Yeah.
So what's going to end up happening here, if you take Mexico out of it, Mexico's not going to just stand by, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of what happens is just like how there's automakers and car plants here in Canada, there's also that in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
And the labor's cheaper there.
Yeah.
Right? So it's in the United States' best interest to not spoil that relationship, even though it means nothing to Canada. But if Canada cuts out Mexico, the issue that they're going to run into is that some of those Mexico can undermine the U.S.-Canada agreement if the U.S. went and signed a different deal with Mexico.
Yeah.
Right? So what's going to end up happening essentially,
The U.S. benefits.
the U.S. benefits.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
The
got
U.S.
separate
benefits
deals with both
way
parties.
more.
Yeah.
And Canada and Mexico don't. Right. And then what are you going to do is Canada.
That's the only thing Poilievre said. He's willing to do that. And Trudeau's not. So that's the one thing I was thinking.
So
I don't know if that's the best move.
So I agree with everything he said, right? The one thing where I feel like he's still playing the political game, obviously. He's
always
campaigning.
campaigning.
He's going to keep doing it, whatever, right? And I think everyone knows these tariffs are, in a lot of people's opinions, he's not actually going to impose a 25% tariff, right?
Yeah.
He knows there's going to be ripple effects.
Seems like there's going to be some tariff, 10%. But
I don't think there's going to be any. I think if you see the borders tighten up and you see things happen, I'm sure there's going to be agreements.
that's really such a smart play on his part. If it all gets done before he even gets involved.
But the thing that I see on the Canadian side, what Poilievre included, obviously Trudeau, I don't even think Trudeau responded to the flag picture where he's like 51st state. Trudeau's like, I'm not going to say anything.
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, to my knowledge, he didn't say anything. But even Poilievre or Doug Ford, they don't have a unified approach, right? And I think Trudeau was saying, look, let's have a unified
That's
approach.
what he is saying, yeah.
Again, though, that's obviously in Trudeau's best interest because he's prime minister. It makes him look good if they have a unified approach. But if you're Canadian, if this was actually a possibility that these 25% tariffs are going to come, right? And you're like, oh, it might only happen for 6 months, 7 months would decimate the country.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're a Canadian, you want all these guys on the same page, right? Like you get that done and you figure it out, right? But at the end of the day, because the elections are in 2025, if Trudeau pulls this off, that's a win in his book, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like Poilievre can completely just be like, let's go do it, kumbaya. You can't really do that, right?
Or can he actually do anything?
Yeah,
He can
so
just not. And it looks bad if he doesn't side with Trudeau and trying to get something done, right?
Yeah.
That's where he's kind of winning in this campaign battle.
Yeah.
Like even when he's rejecting their GST holiday or whatever, he voted against it, right?
Yeah.
And then it's kind of backfiring on him. And even here, if he doesn't side with him, it kind of makes it look like you're not Canada first, right?
Ooh, Poilievre?
Poilievre, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, what are you supposed to do? Right? Like, if you do say anything along those lines, like, yeah, what Trudeau's doing is right, we're going to stand by Trudeau.
Yeah.
Trudeau's going to use that afterwards, right? And he's going to be like,
yeah,
oh, you agreed to everything, right? I got this new USMCA done. I got the tariffs to go away. I fixed the economy. Now, 7-8 months later, interest rates are down. He's like, look, the economy is amazing.
Yeah.
And then, you're building that voter base, right? And now certain social justice issues happen and Trudeau comes in storming, fixes that. Now you're going to get the immigrant vote and you flipped it, right? That's why Poilievre has been trying to do this non-confidence thing. Trudeau's not stupid. Nobody's going to sign off on it.
Did you hear about the universities complaining already about the immigration?
Yeah. Yeah, but that's on them, right? Like, how many people came to a lot of these little colleges and universities
so
and take
many,
these BS programs that weren't...
Yeah, but even like really like institutions that people are aware of, like a lot of big universities, they've had to cut so many jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was reading that Ontario universities are expected a $300 million loss.
But does anyone feel sorry for that?
That's the thing, right?
Right? Like, isn't...
I mean, how will that affect future students? Will that make their tuitions go up? Like, obviously, I don't care. I've gone through the university.
Yeah,
program,
kids,
yeah.
I mean...
international students already pay like 3 times tuition.
Right.
3-4 times.
Which they should because they don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
They don't live in this country, so they should pay more tuition.
But it was so funny. Like, they're saying like they should focus on bad actors, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how are you supposed to be selective when enforcing immigration policy? You can't really do that.
You can't.
You don't know who's here for the right reason.
Okay, but that again also is capitalism, right? You saw a loophole, right? You exploited it.
Right.
You made a lot of money, right? And then you're like, this is going to keep happening. And then somebody turned the faucet off.
Yeah, you're like,
and now you're
I don't like
no, so much revenue lost, right? Like, what were you doing before these immigrants came?
Yeah.
Before these massive amount of students got, like, international students have always been a part of Canada. There's a lot of universities here where some of them, they even dominate, right?
Yeah.
But it was done at a decent pace where it doesn't
and we weren't bombarded with it.
Yeah. It takes everyone's jobs. There's even a lot of them, like, we're just talking about people who are on lower end,
right?
Just going to these random colleges. There's international students that have come here, studied here, make $120,000 a year, live downtown Toronto, and even them, they're like, it's not worth it here. Everything's too expensive. The people that already live here, they own homes and stuff. Their families own homes. It's easier for them. We can't afford these big mortgages.
Yeah.
Like, some of them don't even want to be here anymore.
Sheridan College is hurting the most. Really? They're cutting 40 programs.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
But like, what's the reason why they have to cut it?
Yeah, they don't have enough money for them.
Yeah, they're cutting off immigration, so they rely so heavily on these students. On the tuition money, so they have no option.
Yeah. So, you want to move on to